Hello, everybody. How you doing today? It's a new day. It's a fresh day. I hope you're up, shaking, and baking. I always say that all my guests on the Paul Foh Podcast are fascinating people. I've got an amazing gentleman here. I will allow him do his introduction by himself. I think he's a man of many parts. Mr. Olushola Olaleye. Did I get it right?
Yeah, you did. You got it perfectly.
Yes. I think your handle is the Olushola. I like the fact that you put that specifically, the Olushola.
Yep.
Yeah. Welcome. So, what's up, man? How you doing, man? Tell us a bit
I'm,
about your backstory. Just like 60 seconds bit about your backstory. What brought you to this place?
oh my God, I really don't know how to cover that in 60 seconds. I'm here.
Give us the
That's
Twitter version.
to the version. Precocious kid who has always been fascinated about insights. Precocious kid who has always been, very inquisitive about how people think. Precocious kid who went through school as an academic genius, came out of school, found himself falling in love with entrepreneurship, and still decided to pursue his lifelong goal of inspiring people, and who is using social media as a vehicle and a tool for transformation. So yeah, I think that's how I'm here.
Mm-hmm. Right. So you've worked with a lot of businesses, right? You work as a leader, as a speaker, as a coach, as a consultant.
Yeah.
Knowing what you know now, what do you think is the biggest problems that businesses face in getting customers?
Whew. Biggest problem businesses face in getting customers. Now, I'm going to have to answer that question because I think it's a very context specific question, right? And so when you say businesses largely, I think so strongly that it depends on the business and the level that the business is at.
Yeah.
We're in a world today where, particularly when you look at sub-Saharan Africa as a business climate itself, about 95% of people who claim to own businesses don't own businesses, right? Uh, what they own are self-employed ventures and
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily things that are full-blown businesses. And so I like to be very context specific, but I would say largely, what are the main barriers for businesses in terms of getting clients? I would say in many cases, it's a lack of clarity. By
Okay.
lack of clarity, I mean, so many people are just in the game to make money, and then they try to look for, how do I put it now, as many means and as many mediums as possible to get customers,
Mm-hmm.
which is great, right? But one of the main mistakes I think I've noticed is the fact that many times when you are making sales, it's not necessarily in many cases a lack of effort. Sometimes it's not even a lack of funding. Sometimes it's a lack of clarity. Many times the message being conveyed from the B to the C is not carrying enough clarity. A lot of people just want to say, come and buy from me. There has to be a why. There
Mm-hmm.
has to be, people buy things for two major reasons, right? There's the emotional attachment to a product, and then there's a functional satisfaction that comes from a product.
Yeah.
The functional satisfaction is simple. Let's say I'm hungry, for example. Let's say I want a nice bag,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you can provide a nice bag, which is cool. I'm buying for functional reasons. I want a bag, I have a bag. But then again, the main thing that makes people part with their hard-earned money and maybe buy something at a more expensive rate than they would have bought, another, is actually for emotional reasons. By emotional reasons, then you begin to talk about things like, how do I put it, the preconceived value of a particular brand, right? People are buying stuffs not just because it's a bag. They are buying because the bag comes with a particular feel and the message is clear. Are you giving me exclusivity? What are you offering me? What's your bag going to do for me beyond it just being a bag? And
Mm.
so I said all of that to say that many people or many business owners just tend to look for customers for looking for sake, right? Because they want to make sure that there's more money, want to make sure that there's more inflow, which is great. But the truth is, the reason people are not buying from you is not because you don't have a good product. is probably because you haven't been able to properly communicate, right, the value of that product and why they should get it, what the product will add. It could be how much the product can massage their ego or whatever exclusivity it can give to them. But in many cases, a lot of people fail to express, and clarify what their product can do for the customer. It's not just about an increased ad budget. Many times it's not just about taking the nice pictures. It's about the communication of the value, that product. Yes, that's it.
Okay. If you could advise a entrepreneur now, I mean, there's nothing wrong with someone having a one-person business. Maybe that's where they are starting. What's the skill stack that you say, okay, if you want to really grow in your business on this internet, these are the top 5 skills that you must really, really, master if you want to make money on the internet? What are those skills?
What do you mean on the internet?
Yes. On and offline. Yeah. Maybe let's combine it on and offline.
Okay. Yeah. What kind of business? Product-based or service-based?
Okay. So let's do product-based 5 skills, service-based 5 skills. What are the skills?
All right. So
because I really want people to get really tactical value from this episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Very well said. So here's what I'll do. So I think I'll start with the product, and then I'll go to the service-based one. Or what? Let me start with the individual before I talk about the business. So I'll start by saying, if you own maybe a service-based enterprise, let's put it this way. Let's say you are in the knowledge economy, right? Let's say a bit of knowledge commerce, and let's say you know a lot about specific things, and you're trying to position yourself as a consultant, all right, as a thought leader in a particular space. What will I tell you? Well, the first thing I'm going to tell you is,
so let's even paint a scenario, Seth. You have worked as an accountant in an oil and gas company for 15 years. You have retired, and now you want to start your own business. So that is our ideal person now. What are the skills that you need to master now if you want to turn this your accounting experience of 15 years into money?
Okay. So fantastic. How do I go about this? Okay, let me help with the basics. I think because of time, I'll just try to move it this way. So the first thing you must understand is you need to first and foremost embrace the fact that there's been a major paradigm shift in the world as we know it today, right? So for example, Daniel Presley said something so profound. He talked about how personal brands have now overtaken institutions, right? For example, over 60% of people now trust a message that comes from a person they trust over an established institution. So for example, Steve Bartlett now has twice the followers as Channel 4 and over half the followers of the BBC, right? I'm headed somewhere. For example, all major cosmetic brands combined don't add up to half of that of Kylie Jenner, or rather Kylie Kardashian. Now, why am I telling you this? As an entrepreneur, right? Now, entrepreneur in this sense, you as a knowledge entrepreneur, right? Your personal brand is going to be more important than your business brand itself. So here's the point. If you are trying to transition, you're an accountant, you've had 20 years of experience down your belt, and now you want to transition into becoming some sort of a consultant, the first thing is you have to get people to trust you. You're going to have to get people to trust you. And people naturally gravitate towards people they can trust. Now, how do you build trust? That must be your overarching aim. Yes. For me, the first thing you must do is that you must understand your current position and you must begin to build new goals. What do I mean by your present position? First and foremost, you need to understand questions like, what's your niche? What's your area of expertise? Now, write it down. Put it in one place. Okay, I'm great. You must first and foremost take a SWOT analysis on your competencies. What am I great at? What do I have that people can pay for without flinching? That's that in one place. Okay, so accountancy, I'm a numbers genius. Instead of now beginning to say, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to come to that in a bit. But next thing you need to do is, now that you now know exactly what you've got that other people need, you now need to begin to understand first and foremost who your audience is. Now, this is important because failure to understand your audience, your target market, right, will mean that you begin to build for everybody. And whether you like it or not, the expertise that you have will not be appealing to pretty much everyone. And so you must find and create a niche, right, that other people are going to look forward to looking at. Are you getting my point? To have their stuff. And so that's very important. And so the moment you do that, you now need to begin to look at things like your short and long-term goals. What's my plan? Do I want to position myself as a leading accounting solution provider to maybe a particular industry? Could it be FMCG? Could it be something? Or do I want to maybe have a broader niche for myself? When you do that, the next thing you need to now start doing is how you have to find a way to build the perception around your personal brand. This is important. You need to build perception around your personal brand because it is very, very vital. And so the next thing you now have to do is you now need to define your personal brand identity. Who am I? And then this goes beyond saying I'm just an accountant. You're not just an accountant. People are not just coming to you because of your incredible accounting skills. They're coming to you first and foremost because of the kind of personality, right, that you have, what you are as a person. And so in terms of building a very interesting and captivating personal identity, your personal brand identity, so many things have to come to fore. Things like what your core values are, what's your UVP, for example. What will set you apart from every other accountancy consultant on social media? Because one of the craziest things that can happen to you is for you to fool yourself into thinking that you're the only one who is knowledgeable enough to impact other people. No, that's the truth. You're not the only person in that space. You're not the only person who has 15, 20 years under his belt in accounting who is looking to, impact other people or grow as a consultant. So what will set you apart from every other person, from the top Dick and Harry's, from every other person who is doing the same? So you have to now create a UVP, right? And many times your UVP could be embedded in your own personal story, right? Think about a challenge you were able to solve effectively. Think about the problems you encountered a whole lot in the 20 years of your accountancy practice, right? And how you can use that as an anchor, right, to be able to help people solve other problems, okay? And so, for example, imagine you have such such profligacy in accounting. You can begin to tell a very beautiful story around helping other businesses avoid theft, right, in their operations. So let me give you a very beautiful example. You could tell a very beautiful story about how maybe you grew up and you were raised by a petty trader mom who then, as her business morphed and scaled, began to have extra assistants. And before you knew it, the business was run down due to the theft and the pilfering of these assistants. I'll give an example, right? Now, having seen the struggles your mom had to go through, in your practice as an accountant, you've been able to help several businesses cure the problem of theft and find solutions to money problems. And now you plan to help other people do so. Okay, now this sounds like a very brilliant, unique value proposition. And then people will begin to creep, come around, come all the way to you because it's compelling enough. And so that's very important. So you must craft a very powerful brand story. And then when you're done doing that, the next thing I'm going to advise you to do, if you're trying to build a very solid personal brand, particularly in digital media age, is you need to learn to develop a consistent visual identity. A consistent visual identity. What this does is that it helps enhance recognizability and professionalism, right? People, for you to build trust in people's hearts, they're going to have seen you repeatedly. Not just seen you in a particular, not just seen you anyhow. They must have been able to have seen you in a particular way, consistently so. People naturally gravitate towards those who have some given level of consistency. A brand, right, is simply what other people say about you when you're not in the room. Yes, but people will not say stuff about you when you're not in the room until they have seen you show up in that particular way consistently. Nobody really calls somebody a liar per se until they've seen them tell lies repeatedly. The same way no one will call you an astute accountant or a solid consultant just because you helped solve one problem or because you just showed up by posting one video. No, you're going to have to do so consistently. So all these things matter because visuals are super important in building brand impressions. Very important. And so things like a professional headshot, don't play with it. Things like an engaging online presence. Look at Paul Foh. I mean, you just told me, sir, this is your 200 and something episode of this particular pod. Look at that. It takes consistency to do so. So this helps you do something. By creating a consistent visual identity, you are building an engaging online presence, one that helps establish credibility and connects you with your target audience. It's not one thing to say, I'm the accountant for MSMEs. It's another thing for you to show up by creating different types of videos that would appeal to the MSMEs. right? So educational videos, entertaining videos, informative videos, whatever it is, just make sure that you are doing it consistently. And so you need to also have things like platform strategies. What are your touch points? Look, I'll be simple. Whatever you are trying to do right now, to see social media as a major vehicle, a free vehicle that gets you to your destination. There's massive decentralization media-wise. If you were trying to grow let me give an example, maybe a law brand, a law firm, about 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you know what you had to do? You had to get a space. After getting a space, you had to go and pay for some traditional media. Maybe put an ad, Guardian or Sun or Punch or the likes. But look, with the advent of social media, there's been a paradigm shift. Now there's thorough decentralization. Anybody can do it without even having to spend as much money as they used to do before. And social media like that, every single touch point on social media like we have it today is a blessing. And so when I post on Instagram, I'm reaching the world in a very interesting way. Same with LinkedIn. Showcase your expertise through articles and connections. People are watching. Don't be carried away by the immediate absence of likes and shares. Because people naturally gravitate towards consistent people. They are watching many times in the shadows. They are waiting to see if your energy will fizzle out. Okay, and this is very important. And leads me to the next thing, which is, I don't know, I'm kind of pressed for time because I can talk about this for as long as possible. I don't know how long you're giving me for this, but another thing I need to talk about is the fact that someone put it so beautifully. He said, inspiration is perishable. And so one of the things that helps you build consistency in growing a personal brand that appeals to people and in trying to, build thought leadership is you need to learn to build structures around your life, structures around what you pull out. Because if you only create content when you feel like it, you will never end up building a solid personal brand.
Spot on.
To build a structure around it. This is where self-leadership comes into play. Create a structure, create a system. Sometimes you're going to also have to build a team, a formidable one at that, particularly if you're somebody who is very busy with hands-on work and you do not have the mental bandwidth to be able to consistently show up on social media. I recommend stuff like bulk creating and so many other things, which will actually help you build that system. Take it from somebody who is a multi-potentialite and ridiculously busy. That, and which is why you must keep on showing up. You must keep on showing up. It was Vuzi who said something so beautifully. He said, people don't believe what is true. People believe what is often said. And it means that it will not matter if you are the greatest accountancy genius in one part of the world. People will not believe it. They will instead gravitate towards someone else who is showing up boldly.
Yeah.
So I hope that helps.
A lot. I like that.
So that's from one angle. So that's one service. So for a business, okay. Or do you still want me to?
No. So before you go into the business part, hello everybody. This episode of the Paul Foh Podcast was sponsored by Sales Factory Global. 1 is our community. We have a community of over 300 people from entrepreneurs from different parts of the world where we just do sales live together. So click on the link in the show notes to join us. And if you believe that Mr. Olushola has been talking about, if you have a personal brand and you believe that you can grow it, monetize it, and make money off the back of that, we just released a new online course called How to Make Money Selling Your Knowledge and Experience. You click on the link on the show notes to get that. So, Mr. Olushola, man, this has been fire. Continue, man.
All right. So, that's
I like that part when you talked about consistency. It's like someone once said that repetition is persuasive.
Oh yes.
So that's very, very, very well. Also, don't tell them everything so that they can go and get some of your courses and all that. So I'm going to put the link in the show notes.
Man, I think if you want to get the business side, right? I have a course. Link in my bio. I think the course was how to start a business in Nigeria and make millions from it.
Very good.
I talk a lot about the step-to-step guide on how to start a business, start making sales, and keep moving it up. Yeah.
No, I mean, I thoroughly and totally believe that, because some of the numbers that some people call in Lagos and in Abuja, they are incredible. Incredible. So if you had to do it all over again, What skill will you master?
Whew. If I had to do, the question is what?
You're building up your personal brand and your business all over again. If you have to do it all over again, yes. What skill will you go hard on?
I think the skill I'll go hard on is the skill that I was fortunate enough to have harnessed from early on, which is the skill of strategic communication, right? It will not matter what you know. If you cannot present your core competencies in a persuasive way, you will never get anybody on side. And so, being fortunate early enough to have been able to master that. And in fact, I'm consistently growing and building myself to ensure that that skill is one I keep on honing, which is strategic communication, your elocution, your articulation, very important. This is super important. I've seen people who know so little, but are able to communicate the little they know, get more out of life than people who know a lot.
How do you specifically do that? How do you specifically develop your communication skill?
A whole lot. Think of it this way, right? I think there's so much relationship between elocution and articulation. But sometimes some people just try to, for a reason of trying to be deep, differentiate it this way. People say stuff like articulation is clarity of thought, right? Elocution is clarity in speech. Very well said, truthfully, if I were just adopting that in the interim, right? Even though many times they're just pretty much synonymous. How was I able to do that, and how am I able to constantly do so? Here's what I would say. The very first thing is you need to train yourself in what you take in, particularly your unconscious permissions. Here's what I mean. A man is a product of what he sees and what he hears, constantly so. See, these things, the eyes and ears, they are gateways, they're the gateways to your life. Time fails me to give you psychological research about psychological research that shows how who you think you are as an adult is actually a product of 95% subconscious and unconscious mind, and just 5% of your conscious. And so how did your unconscious mind get to the point that it is today? It's actually by the things it took in most cases, without your permission.
Yeah.
So the first thing I'm going to say is change your exposure, right? Begin to expose yourself to things that can uplift your mind, because you can't give what you don't have. If you're eloquent without being deep enough, right, it will be obvious, because you only be sounding cute and nice, but no one will be able to glean anything else, because there's simply not no wealth of experience in there. And so one of the things that I do personally is I make sure that I control my exposure. I make sure I control my exposure so much. What am I exposed to? What do I take in? What do I read? What do I see? So, for example, there's a reason your social media page is called a feed, because it is food to your mind, right? And food for your soul. So, very important. So, you have to make sure you control that. The next thing you have to do is, now I'm talking about things that you take in unconsciously. Now, the next thing you also have to do is ensure that you take in the right things consciously.
Yeah.
Put it this, a reader will be 10 times more articulate than someone who doesn't read. Here's what I mean. The more you read, the more you glean from other people's flow of thoughts.
Yeah.
The more you see what is possible, the more you see what could be employed. It's just about soaking yourself in. So, for example, I'm on my work table here. I have another appointment by roughly 3 something, but all through for the most of the day, I've just been soaking in some very good work. I've been roaming around like 3 different books.
What books are you reading right now?
So currently, I'm wrapping up Deep Work by Cal Newport.
That's a good book, yeah.
Ridiculously amazing. I've been on it for a bit, been moving in and out of it and all, but it's been so amazing, life-changing, mind-blowing. On a daily, I do the Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday.
Yeah, Ryan Holiday, very good.
Also have A Year with Timothy Keller. I have that. And then also there are some other books I keep moving in and around. I'm sure you know Contagious. You salespeople. So I mean, Contagious. There's There's just different ones. There's I'm sure you know. So yeah, currently I'm so much on deep work. I'm moving in between deep work, more on Ryan Holiday's materials. So for example, there are others. There's discipline. I'm sure you know discipline is destiny.
Mm-hmm.
There's also I was a bit on shift. I got this book at Dr. Sam Adeyemi's conference. Woo!
Yeah.
I recommend. In fact, some of the things I just even mentioned about how to build a quality mindset. What you see, what you hear, actually, he defines that a lot more. And so, yeah. So why am I doing this? It's not because I don't have things to do with my life. When I'm done with this book by Cal Newport, I have to pick up a book by Carl Truman. It's called The Rise and Triumph of the Modern Self. My laptop is currently on it, so I can show you. You know, so why am I doing it is the moment you immerse yourself in mind refining materials, right? The more you begin to build. And so when people cut you open, like cut you open in this sense, I mean, when they ask you questions, what comes out, is refined because your mind is so powerful. That's what many times we don't pay attention to. Your mind is so powerful to the point that even when it is not conscious, it is still ruminating. It's like an engine that never stops working. Even in your sleep, it's still moving, it's still working. And so it's what you give it that it keeps on mixing. And then when you ask the question, that's what comes out. And so that's another way you can. Another thing I also say finally is practice. You have to make sure that you manage your input and output ratio. A whole lot of people know so much but teach so little. Therefore, the little that they know begins to diminish. Have you noticed that whenever you learn a new word and you use it a lot, the more it sticks?
Yeah.
Man is not made to just take in. You must give out. If all you do is take in, you become stale, and stale water stinks. You can't just take in alone. You have to ensure you give out. So your input and your output ratio must match. You must make sure that you give out also as you take. Look for someone to teach, look for something to say. Look for sometimes also writing it out. I'm used to writing stuff on my notepads and all, but at some point I have to say, you know what, bro, I have to go back to the natural way of actually taking notes. There's something it does to you. I don't know about it, but maybe keypads are a bit restrictive. But there's something actually writing things out. This helps your flow of thought. So do that. And also, that's for writing. I'll also say speak as much as you can. By speak, I don't necessarily mean go and fabricate a platform for yourself. I'm saying there are platforms every single day. In your communication with friends, the things you learn, share with them. It doesn't have to be a formal setting before it's a public speaking platform. It is a public speaking platform. The reason I can speak before 1 million people today and my knees will not buckle is because I spoke before 5 friends and I did not cower. You must train yourself in that regard. And I think I need to hold it up here so I don't chime into your time.
This is so powerful. You don't need to go into the figures, but you can do what is the figures? What's the amount of money that hit your account as a speaker, as a writer, as a personal brand that made you go like, this thing works?
Personal brand?
Yes.
Not
maybe
business.
They call you to come and speak. You ask your company to come and do work. What's that figure when they enter your account and you guys went like, okay,
so
this is working?
You
can do 5 figures, 6 figures, 10 figures, whatever the figures.
Okay.
So people know the power of a personal brand.
Okay, you know what here's what I'll do to you. I'll put it this way. They can draw stuff from this. If you build a solid personal brand, you can get to the point where, so for example, I have different streams of income from my personal brand. I'm a well sought after speaker, very well sought after speaker. I say so with as much humility as possible. I'm a coach. I'm a self-leadership coach, right? And so I coach HNIs, right? And tell them how to improve their lives. Because if you try to improve a business without improving the person who leads the business, is like, putting water in a basket and expecting it to be full. So I coach. I have courses. I have just one course for now, full blown one course for now. Time fails me to create as many as I want to. I am a business consultant. I train employees of businesses and all. And so here's what I would do to try and maybe give the person some perspective. It is that I also have conferences. So let me put it this way. If you build a solid personal brand, you can create a course that sells at, even if it's 50,000 naira, right? And in one night, right, you can, let's say you create a course that sells even 30,000 naira, no matter how little. And in one night, you can sell, or one full day, you can sell 3 figures of it if you want to.
Yeah.
Right? When you extrapolate and do the math, you know how much that is.
Oh, yeah.
So here's building a personal brand is rock solid. When I'll tell you how much I charge, for example, on the average to speak anywhere.
Yeah.
The least amount of money I charge, maybe for keynote addresses, currently is not 1 million, is over that. Okay. Right? I'll put it that way. Just keynote address, an hour. It's not 1 million, it's over that. Right? The amount of money I charge to speak outside of Lagos is more than that.
Yeah.
The amount of money I charge to speak out, blah, 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 blah. Now, the amount of money I charge to train, even if I'm training you in the next street of my house, is not 1 million. It's not 2 million. Because if I'm going to sit in a place to train your team for an entire day, these are the things that it costs. And so, saying how much I really made is very tricky, but this gives them a sense of something. There's that. And so imagine with my influence, if I put out something today and say I want to sell off. So let me tell you how interesting it is. If I want to make $1 million now, because I've built a consistent personal brand that has given so much and asked for little in return. Yeah. It's important. I've given so much and asked for little in return. Every single week, my team churns out an average of about 10 videos. We churn an average of 10 videos every single week. Imagine, almost 2 videos per day. And so I give it out a lot and I ask for very little. So for someone like me, if I want to sit down here and make $1 million by 9 p.m., all I have to do is announce that on one course that I released, I'm giving it out at 25,000 naira for one. I'll make $1 million before 9 p.m. because 40 people.
Spot on.
And so imagine you keep on doing that. This is just an idea of what it is like. Okay, so there's that. Yes, and then also it's a seasonal thing also sometimes, right? But beyond that, also I also have a mentorship network, right? So like a group that you mentioned. So for example, there's stuff like that. For example, I also have conferences. My conferences are not cheap. They're not 50,000 naira conference. It's not 100,000 naira conference. It's refined to sit a certain set of people, and they pay to attend my conferences, right? Because I've been able to build a solid personal brand where people know that I have what they need.
Yeah.
And so that's important. And so what I'll tell you is, if you're able to build a solid personal brand, we're not talking 1 million naira a month. Some months will be way more than that. Some months could even reach, let me put it that way, 8 figures, Some months could be, depending. I'm not telling you if that's how much I've made, but I'm saying there's no limit.
Yeah.
Absolutely no limit. There's no limit. There are a lot of, I'll put it that way. There's no limit. And if you're able to understand it and hack it, and let me tell you this, sir. The final thing I want to say is, what you know is not many times commensurate to what you earn. It is what you know that you have packaged, refined, and delivered consistently so, right? That will now birth the required amount of money that you should be earning. It's important because not everybody who earns the most in the knowledge commerce space are the ones who are the most knowledgeable. They're probably just the ones who show up the most. And so for me, I'm trying to be 2 things: ridiculously knowledgeable and showing up a whole lot. Those 2 things, marrying them together, the sky is really going to be the starting point.
Fantastic. This has been a very, very fascinating conversation. I'm sure everybody who listens to this episode will be blessed by it. So click on the subscribe button. If you're listening to this on Spotify, click on the subscribe button. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, click on the plus sign button and the follow button. Of course, of course, on YouTube, click on the subscribe button. I'm going to put the link to your social media in the show notes so that people can, you know, but where would you like to direct people to?
Okay. If you're on YouTube, just follow the Olushola, the Olushola Olaleye, THE_Olushola. Also search for either of that. On all my media, I go by THE_Olushola, D Olushola. There's only one D Olushola. No, actually, there's actually another handle called Olushola. Don't get me wrong, but like, our point is me. I'm D Olushola. So search D Olushola, THE_Olushola, anywhere on any platform. Once you type it, I'm the first name that comes out.
Oh,
Anyway, first
oh,
name that comes.
oh, okay.
Type Olushola, that's the first.
I've also interviewed an Olushola, Larry Olushola.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
the
it was a great
that's the
episode. It
legend.
did like 5,000 views on that episode. It was a
That's
very
the
good episode.
legend. That's the legend in mind engineering space. He's incredible. He's
Yeah,
incredible.
I interviewed him and
I'm
something
the
he said.
Olushola. I'm not Larry Olushola.
No, he calls himself the catalyst. Yeah.
Yeah, the catalyst. That's him. Incredible man. Incredible
Yeah,
man.
yeah. I'm gonna press stop recording. I'll just gist with you a little bit and then we'll call up the class. Wow, this is